Everything is completely headlined by the fact that after just 2 games this season under new head coach David Canales, the Carolina Panthers, they're moving in a different direction. They're going to be starting Andy Dalton for the foreseeable future. I don't know if this means that they're going to eventually turn back to Bryce Young after he's caught himself and he's really had time to absorb the situation around him. I don't understand how you're going to do this in 2 weeks, though. Look, Sean, I don't mean to already cut you off before you get to your point. I absolutely hate this decision. And the reason why I hate it is that after 2 weeks, David Canales is making this decision that he is going to almost, it feels deliberately, point the blame at for the lack of success just overall and why they've been blown out over the last 2 weeks. You are putting the blame on Bryce Young. You are already escaping the inept, poor quality of play from the entire team by benching him. And everybody is now calling attention to the lack of performance by Bryce Young. It's all anybody's talking about. Nobody is bringing up the issues that the offensive line has had in watching Bryce Young run around for his life, or the fact that J.K. Dobbins ran all over your asses against the Chargers. He easily picked up a number of third and short situations untouched. This is an overall mess of a team, and for some reason, David Canales is bailing on a quarterback who clearly needs time to learn and a nurturing environment to help him. Instead, you're killing his confidence and you are assessing blame to Bryce Young. I saw one of the arguments that was made in favor of this. So many people are supporting this, and I hate it. The argument that was made in support of this was you can't lose the locker room. We're missing the quiet part here of the reason of what you're bringing up for that being a positive for benching Bryce Young. You're implying that David Canales cannot face his team criticizing him and the fans criticizing him and the whole entire NFL media landscape criticizing him. This is soft-ass shit for a guy who is in his second game as a head coach.
It feels like a Twitter decision. It feels like they were listening to rubes like us talk about Bryce Young and what the situation is. And, if everyone else is saying it, I might as well do it. It's way too early in the season to be pulling this plug. Carolina, if you were realistic, you knew you weren't going to the playoffs this year, with or without Bryce Young. My main issue is that it's Andy Dalton replacing Bryce Young. All right? This isn't a situation where I don't believe that the Carolina Panthers are in any position to win more with Andy Dalton than with Bryce Young. Has Bryce Young struggled and been rough and bad?
He's 36. Andy Dalton.
Yes, I agree. No, Andy Dalton has turned in some horrendous quarterbacking play, some awful games in the late stages of his career. Go ahead, you can still make a team, but I don't like the argument Andy Dalton is going to give us a better chance to win than Bryce Young, in case Bryce Young figures it out. It hurts Young's confidence. It hurts Young's ability. He's missing live game reps. I think they hurt him by starting him in year one as a savior. I know he's the number 1 overall pick, but you should have known when you saw him standing behind that offensive line in training camp, week 1, year 1, he wasn't gonna do it that year. He just wasn't. They hurt him, and I think that if they made a better push for a better backup quarterback, I'd be more in line with the decision. If you really want to be a win now team, but that feels like a lame excuse because your starting quarterback had a couple really bad games.
This isn't like a circumstance, and I'm trying to think of like a good one. This isn't like the Ryan Fitzpatrick situation with Tua. There's probably a better example to think of, but where it didn't really make sense to start Tua when he was started at that time, and that Dolphins team was competitive. This team's horrible. This team's absolutely horrible. Now, I can't, to be very clear, I can't go without pointing out that Bryce Young has not played well. Like, he has been bad. We said that last week. He has been having just a rough go last season and to start the year. He has no passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 245 combined passing yards in 2 games against the Saints and the Chargers. This past game, he was 18 for 26 for only 84 yards. Yes, he is not playing well. He is a quarterback that was thrown into the worst possible situation. I implore everybody to go watch the segment that we did last week, where we brought up the fact that he could not have been given a worse starting situation in the history of the NFL. Like, one of the worst situations where bad team already, trading away all of your future capital, and now you're expected to save everything. And now with all of that being up against you and you're back against the wall, the guy who's supposed to support you and help you develop is, again, pointing the finger at you and saying you're not good enough. The statement was, he looked at the game film and decided that we need to make this change. You don't get better with Andy Dalton. This team is a dumpster fire. It's fucking horrible. It doesn't just get better because you put Andy Dalton in there. Bryce Young might be bad, but you just cooked his career in Carolina. If I am Bryce Young, this is a great situation for him, though, now, because he needs to go to his agent and he needs to demand a goddamn trade.
Leave him in the dust, right?
No, seriously, he has reasoning. Before he didn't. Before, if he was the starter for the rest of the year and he played bad and the team stunk, he would have seemed selfish to request to get out of what is a horrible, just messy, terrible franchise to be a part of that would have been so impossible to win at. Now he can make that argument and get traded to a team that might have a sitting veteran that he can sit for a year and then eventually take over. Bryce Young, demand the trade.
He should. Here's a quick game I have for you. How many Carolina Panthers players do you think you can name? Just off the top of your head.
J.C. Horn, Derek Brown, Ika Mekwanu, Shaq Thompson, Xavier Legette, Deontay Johnson, Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
Jonathan Brooks is hurt, but he's on the team. Tommy Tremble.
Wow.
Okay, this is a bad exercise.
Yeah, you're doing good. I can't believe that. I'm sitting here.
I'm a ball knower, goddammit.
The roster fulfillment for Carolina.
Fuck you for asking. I don't know ball.
I'm not you. I wasn't putting you on trial. I was putting NFL fans on trial because this team is awful. Top to bottom, there's no star power. Nobody wants to play in Carolina. And they've put on a nice masterclass of how to go from a respectable, fun franchise that plays hard defense to modern NFL disaster basement franchise that just can't perform. I mean, honestly, mid-2010s, they were a world beater. Cam Newton was great. And it wasn't just Newton. You had Thomas Davis. Yeah,
yep.
you had
Jonathan Stewart.
You had studs. You had guys that really could play. And now you look at the Carolina Panthers like, what's the recruiting department been doing lately? What have you actually been doing to make our team better? Because I don't see much of it. And Bryce Young requesting a trade, God, it would be interesting. I lean now into liking more what Deion Sanders' approach is going to be with Shedeur and Travis Hunter in the draft.
It's a good
saying, I'm not sending these superstars to a Carolina Panthers destination. We will not handle our business that way. I will pull an Eli. I will keep them from having this situation, from looking like a loser, from looking like someone that can't play ball and hurting their NFL career. I'm starting to flip around on it. Some quarterback has to break that mold again, and I think Shedeur Sanders does it.
Red Sea Shaq Thompson had 14 tackles against the Chargers, so he's still on the team. And look, it's fine if you want to disagree with me. I think that there's plenty of people that can. This isn't a take where I'm going to fight with other fans of the sport who disagree with me. I'm just more so, I already don't like David Canales. Like, I don't. Like, he's great at cheating on his wife, but he's not great at coaching a football team, apparently. I just think it's so lame to bail on a guy that you're supposed to have faith in, that you were supposed to come in and help. Like, how is benching him after 2 games supposed to help him? This other argument that gets brought up of, let him catch his breath and get, the opportunity to see a veteran start and get all that stuff. Like, he's not a rookie. He's beyond that. It's like with Anthony Richardson, where he has no games under his belt because he missed most of last year. Of course, he's going to be sloppy. Like, these guys have to learn. We need to understand that not everybody is Patrick Mahomes that hits the ground running in year 2. A lot of guys take time, and Sam Darnold's the perfect example of that.
Sam Darnold was a slow cook. This feels a little bit Zach Wilson-esque, where tragic first year, but hey,
they didn't give up on this quickly.
No, they didn't. But they said, all right, we're gonna have you sit. We're bringing in the vet. That works. We'll try to figure it out, let you develop. And then, unfortunately, before he was ready to go back in, he was forced back in, and we saw what happened again with Zach Wilson in New York, and it became a disaster. There's no way Carolina and Bryce Young turn into a good match at this point. I don't think they can find success with each other.
Well, to the Panthers' benefit, they'll probably have the first overall pick, so they're going to get to choose in a terrible quarterback class, which is comical that they're probably going to make another mistake and they're probably going to pick the wrong guy. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head before we move on to the next topic. if I am Bryce Young, where do I want to land? There's not the Raiders could be an interesting option.
Cleveland.
But
I want to go to Cleveland if I'm him. Good wideouts, great defense, running backs out the ass, good coach, and I'm going to be a superstar hero after the criminal leaves the starting quarterback position.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can do.
So I'd say, put me in Cleveland, please. Let me be the hero for this city because I can do it.
What about the Steelers? Steelers aren't a bad one. If Russ and Justin Fields, and it kind of gets, it's already starting to look like that. If it gets to the end of the season where it's like, wow, we did all of that for nothing, and we still don't have a guy, I would think that if I'm the Steelers, I would make that trade.
I'm gonna kind of see
keep
how
kicking it down the road. Just keep bringing in former first round picks and just see if it can eventually work.
I am. If I'm the Steelers, I'm not rushing to put Russell Wilson back in the game because the kid Justin Fields is 2-0 on the year. I know it's a sloppy 2-0, and he was like 13 for 20.
I'm pro Justin Fields, and I want that to work out. But I think that's one to pay attention to. I think I have the perfect one: the Seahawks.
Oh, wow.
Because how old's Geno Smith? Geno Smith he's 33 years old, and he's been good. He's been strong. So you bring him in. Bryce sits for year 3 of his contract, and then eventually Geno gets to 34, 35. You hand the keys over to Bryce Young. I just think that there's a lot of examples where you give somebody another opportunity, they find ways to succeed. Baker Mayfield's a good example who he showed up in Carolina and you screwed him over. And then look at him. He's in the division and he's 2-0 and he looks great and he got a huge contract. Maybe we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and decide maybe it's the destination. I do understand some people trying to criticize him as the quarterback prospect. He probably should not he should not have been the first overall pick. He should have been a top 10 pick, but he's still a talented player that has tools that can be utilized to produce success on the field. It's just not in Carolina.
I think that Bryce Young pulled off one of the best masterclasses of duping the football landscape because he was a phenomenal college football quarterback. Phenomenal. He's accurate. He was poised, confident, decisive. His drawback is he's a college football quarterback. He's not an NFL guy, I don't think. He's just frame.
I disagree with that.
I think his frame and his arm are just not made for the NFL. But we'll see. You know what? I'll check out that take again when I see him on a better team.
Final thought on this: what current college quarterback do we hate the most that we would like for the Panthers to ruin, that we wouldn't feel bad about?
God.
Like who's just like a total dud that if they went to Carolina and we just kind of watched them fizzle out in 3 years, we'd be like, yeah, that guy wasn't very fun or good anyways. I'm trying to think who we could root for there.
Mertz? I don't really like Mertz.
Yeah, but they're not taking Graham Mertz first overall. What did Graham Mertz ever do to you?
You kind of did some Graham Mertz glazing a while ago, and I did not really like it.
I don't remember doing it.
I'm sure you're hoping Tyler Van Dyke turns it on. So
yeah, he's done for the season. He's done for the season, but that was like the first guy that came to mind. Is like they should take Alan Bowman first overall. I think that would be that would really help save their season.